Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Akshata Purohit, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to today's Business Unplugged session, a platform where thought leaders from across the world come together to exchange ideas, inspire meaningful dialogue, and drive impactful conversations. Today's session is particularly special as we conclude the learnings and reflections of 2025 with the final episode of Season 2.0 of Business Unplugged. With the brightest smiles, we thank you for joining us for what promises to be an insightful discussion on India UK trade partnership, new opportunities for businesses. This important theme will be explored today by two renowned leaders known for their vision, experience, and industry influence. We are honored to host His Excellency Mr. Stephen Hickling, British Deputy High Commissioner to Gujarat and Rajasthan, and CA Pankaj Mundra, co founder and chairman of 360TF, a distinguished leader with over 2 decades of experience in the global trade finance industry. We are also pleased to share that CA Pankaj Mundra will be moderating this session, guiding us through a rich and engaging dialogue with his deep expertise and global industry perspective. Beyond his leadership at 360TF, he actively contributes to major global platforms such as BAFT, ITFA, FCI, and ICC, where his insights continue to shape the future of trade finance. Now, let's introduce our guest of the evening. Steve currently serves as the British Deputy High Commissioner to Gujarat and Rajasthan, a role he assumed in March 2023. With over 23 years of diplomatic experience in the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, he has held key assignments in Peru, Kazakhstan, Albania, Azerbaijan, and has overseen significant portfolios in London, including Russia, Poland, the European Commission, and the Andean region. A passionate traveler, he shares a long standing connection with India. Outside of work, he enjoys Ruby and rowing and is a proud husband and father of two. I'm sure everyone is eager to hear their thoughts and perspectives now. With that, I hand it over to a panel to take this discussion forward.
Thank you, Akshita. And once again, Mr. Steve, welcome to Business Unplugged Session 2, the final grand finale of this year. It has been a enriching experience so far of this series, sharing knowledge with our audience and client across the globe. I'm glad that we are here, have you here today. And with our relationship last 4 months, where we met before the GTFS Gandhinagar Gift City event in person, and you were kind enough to visit us during your trip to Rajasthan to our Jaipur office, and we have you here today along our other audience. So once again, a very warm welcome to you.
Thank you, Pankaj. It's great to be here, and thanks for inviting me. What an amazing intro! Thought leader. Going through my work history. Amazing. I'm very flattered.
No, thank you. In fact, I was reading about your journey from Russia to South America to Central Africa. It has been I'm sure those experiences of more than 2 decade plus have been a great experience which you have now. And you are in India. As Indian, we are proud that we have someone like you who's representing UK as a Deputy High Commissioner and based out of Ahmedabad and taking care of that. But so before today's agenda, where we're going to debate about the India UK strategic FTA partnership and FTA agreement, I would like to first start with one to want to learn and you share about your journey in India so far for 30 months. But before,
Yeah.
probably it would be good to know that before you move to India, the journey which we just spoke about from various continents, what was your key experiences as a diplomat of those countries before you came into UK, to India, and how does which you would what you would have thought about before coming to India with your experiences in UK and other countries, and what's your experience of these 30 months while you're there in India? I'd like to hear from you.
Thanks, Pankaj. That's a really broad question. And actually, more recently, I've been starting to think about the things that I've done over the last two and a bit decades. And I suppose my main reflection is that I never stop learning. There's always something new that I learn. Um, and there never comes a point where you have the monopoly on knowledge. Every day there's something new I learn, whether it's trade finance or Indian politics or whatever it might be, there's always something new. And so all of those experiences have given me fabulous insights into international politics, European politics, relations with Russia, but relations with countries, as you say, across different continents. And although the issues you deal with are always different, there's usually a common denominator, and that's the personal person-to-person contact. So whatever the issue might be, it could be something as small as an agreement around war graves, or it could be something as big as human rights in Russia, or it could be a big trade deal. I think the common denominator is that the bottom line is it comes down to contact between people and understanding between people, and building a relationship with people such that you can get things done for mutual benefit. But reflecting on it, my experiences have been so diverse, from Latin America, doing consular work and managing the embassy there. I was head of the embassy office in Kazakhstan, and I covered Kyrgyzstan there. And we did a fair bit of commercial trade and investment work there as well. And then Albania, where I was deputy ambassador, and we did a bit of trade and investment, but there was more work around justice and home affairs, around organised crime, illegal activities from there, but also some military work. So my career has been so varied and so interesting. I feel very privileged to have been on this journey, as they say. But then I travelled to India when I was in my early 20s, and I'd always wanted to come back to India and serve the UK in India. So in many respects, getting this posting has been a dream come true. It's a little bit like winning the lottery. And all of those experiences that I gained over the years, I've been able to implement a lot of my learnings when I arrived in India. But the thing with India is that it's so vast, so complex, and so fast moving. You have to learn a whole load of new skills. Nothing quite prepares you for working in India. It's the most amazing place, and the biggest privilege to represent the UK in Gujarat and Rajasthan.
Fantastic. No, it's quite fascinating and so inspiring, of so many, experience and, being part of various continents representing UK. Uh, Now it's almost like 2.5 years you are in India in this role, close to 30 months, and you have another, of course, 18 months to go. What was your, and you've been traveling across states, what have been your key experiences of this 2.5 years, especially with execution? I think as a government, as a diplomat, we have a lot of plans from an execution perspective, but I'm sure uh, few of those plans will got executed, which will of course benefit the civilians and the residents of Indian economy, and so as the investors from UK and vice versa. Maybe you can throw some light of your journey so far in India in last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
It will be great. Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's a great question. I think my office here is a relatively small one. It's the smallest office I've worked in, actually, across my diplomatic career. But in some ways, I'm dealing with some of the bigger issues here. So we're dealing with trade and investment. We've got colleagues from the Department for Business and Trade at this office who are dealing with those investment and trade issues. we're dealing with transnational education, so we're supporting British universities to come and set up their campuses here. We've got 3 coming to Gift City, one opening early next year. We've been working on the sports economy. So, for example, we took Deputy Chief Minister Harsh Sanghvi to London earlier this year and introduced him to UK business leaders there, looking at the opportunities around Ahmedabad's sporting ambitions to host the Commonwealth Games and the Olympics. And then another piece of work we're working on is the energy transition. So looking at renewable energies, working with the authorities here on policy around offshore wind, around electric mobility, and also looking at those allied issues such as critical minerals and rare earths, which are part of the whole energy transition package. So it's a real variety of things. But I think the common thread through all of these, Pankaj, is that it's all about the economy. It's all about growth, and growth in the Indian economy and in the UK economy, leveraging all of those opportunities I mentioned across those different sectors to produce growth for the UK companies and growth in the Gujarati and Indian economies. So I'm really proud that we've actually got results on education around trade and investment. I think this year my colleagues generated or helped Indian companies invest £100 million in the British economy, with close to 500 new jobs. I've been supporting British companies that are investing in Gujarat, such as Croda Chemicals and others. And as I say, the universities, 3 universities I'm working with, and some of the banks, working on the sports economy and working on energy. And we're getting results across all of those. It's never straightforward, but I don't think anything worthwhile is straightforward. And you've got to you've got to keep plugging away at these things. And sometimes something will land which disrupts everything you're doing. So, for example, this year we had the crash of the Air India aeroplane with 53 British nationals aboard. And so, in effect, we had to drop all of our work to deal with the consular work and linking up with the Gujarati authorities, linking them up with the British authorities, setting up a response centre. So for 2-3 months, we didn't do any of our day work. We just concentrated on this. So it's been a really challenging year, but at the same time, my 2.5 years here so far, we've started to see some real results on universities, critical minerals, energy transition, sports economy, and trade and investment. So it's really exciting. And I think those challenges, if you can overcome those challenges, but still be delivering results, I think you're in a good spot.
Fantastic. No, I think sports economy is becoming emerging as a new investment. Earlier used to be more of a, you know, academic and this thing, but we're seeing more and more initiative coming in that, and I'm happy if Commonwealth can happen. This is
Yeah.
very interesting. And just on picking up, you're based in Gujarat, and we have a lot of Gujaratis in UK in that sense. So, how is your experience of with dealing with Gujaratis in India? And of course, we have a lot of Gujaratis in UK, and you see some
Yeah.
common thread between from community from here versus community from Indian and Gujarati community in UK.
Yeah. That's a brilliant question, Pankaj. And it's really important. I think Prime Minister Modi first coined the phrase "the living bridge" between India and the UK. And Gujarat is fundamental to that, since nearly half of the Indian diaspora in Britain is of Gujarati origin. And so I see how important that is when I when I go home. And I've done a couple of visits home where I've gone to places where Gujarati people live in Britain, and they've set up their lives, they've set up businesses, and it's pretty amazing stuff, because these guys they oil the wheels between oil the wheels of business between India and the UK, and some of them are doing the most amazing things. You know, they're producing the most high quality products, and more recently getting involved in really innovative tech work. So it's really important that the question of the diaspora. And I think what it does is I said it kind of lubricates the relationship, but I think the key thing it does is it helps to build understanding between Britain and Britain and India. I don't think there are many countries so far apart that understand each other quite so well, partly because of history, but partly because of the living bridge. You know, we're interested in the same things. Many of us eat the same things. We speak the same language often, not always, but often. You know, India beats us at cricket fairly regularly. So, you know, there's so much going on between the two countries that I think oil the wheels, and the diaspora is very much part of that business relationship. Often I get queries from Gujarati businesses wanting to sell into the British market. Now, that's really something that the Indian High Commission does. But I have plenty of contacts in the UK, in the Midlands, who are very good at providing advice and placing those Indian companies into or providing the advice to get those Indian companies into the market. So there's a really good ecosystem of people in the UK who are able to make those relationships work. So I think it's key, very important.
Perfect. No, I think very, very important, and this is quite an interesting data that 50% of the diaspora in UK is from Gujarat, and we know that culturally, and the prominent businessmen from that perspective. So this is very interesting. With this, the critical, the historical FTA which was being signed in July, and which has been the talk in news press, and everybody's excited about this, that what it bring into both the countries, right? And while I understand this is in process of getting ratified by the parliament for the
Yeah.
implementation, and at the same time, which may probably you may might maybe 3 to 6 months. You spent 2.5 years already, and you have another 1.5 year plus 18 months, and I'm sure in a few months time this will get ratified and it will be effective. Where you see the low hanging fruits of implementation as the FT agreement goes live, where you see that, apart from of course these universities and the projects there, which you think before you move back, which will get implemented, and how this is going to benefit everyone.
Yeah. That's quite a tricky question to answer in certain respects. I mean, first of all, I think on the ratification, you're right that it will take a few more months. And I think what I'm hearing from London is that they hope to have it ratified and go through the parliamentary processes by this summer. But hopefully a bit sooner. We'll have to see. But not too long now. And that's really a formality, I understand. So that should be in place by the summer. I think the way I see the free trade agreement, and your question about the low hanging fruits, I see that against the context of a really very fast developing bilateral trade picture. So I think with India's very fast growing economy and its very fast developing demographic wave, that's been powering increased volumes of trade over the last few years. And I don't see that that's going to slow down anytime soon. On the UK side, of course, having left the European Union, it's given the UK scope to explore its freedoms outside the EU, and it's very much enabled us to sign free trade agreements with India and others. I think Australia, New Zealand, and Canada among them. and CPTPP as well, the Pacific Trading Bloc. So these factors have led to a burgeoning trade picture between India and the UK, and I don't see that slowing down. But what I do see is it's going to enhance an already decent picture. So I think there are a number of sectors I think that will develop and benefit. I think in the coming months, and I think for the UK, I see advantages in EV, electric vehicles, in automotive, aerospace, also in terms of food. I think the free trade agreement provided for the freer trade of foodstuffs between India and the UK in both directions. So I see real benefits there for the UK, and I think for India, you're looking at. India's become a real manufacturing powerhouse. Whether that's high-end manufacturing, tech, the whole gamut. So I see real benefits to India, especially in engineering goods, pharmaceuticals and life sciences, where India has real strength. Agricultural products, I mentioned food, but also some of the traditional industries like leather goods, textiles, gems, and I think it's across the board. And I think interestingly, the debate before the FTA was signed was, will it damage the Indian economy? Will it damage the UK economy? Well, of course, in the margins there will be competition. But actually, when you look at the Indian and the UK economies, they're quite complementary in many ways. So I see that this being overwhelmingly in the mutual interest of both countries. And as I say, those are the sectors that I see will benefit. The other thing I would say, before I finish my long ramble on this, is that this free trade agreement is quite innovative in that it covers other sectors, not just manufactured goods. So it will cover services and professional services. So I think that there are advantages there for Indian companies. We've seen over recent decades, India has been a real beneficiary of the trend for outsourcing, but it's increasingly getting involved in the higher value parts of that business environment. So I think there are real opportunities for Indian companies in some of these service-based sectors as well, which is one of the innovations that this free trade agreement brings in.
No, I think service industry, especially the services sector and services exports, have become very important for India, uh, and which is where we see that with this a lot of GCC, the Global Capability
Yeah.
Centers, which is being set up in India, whether it's in GIFT City or otherwise in across pan India, has come up as a because you have a clear cost arbitrage between a
Mm.
GBP and the bonds and Indian rupee. And
Yeah.
so the consulting side of it, which you mentioned, and secondly, I think there's also an opportunity on the GCC side where a UK company is setting up their treasuries or the other back office activity in India, and
Mm.
there's an arbitrage of the cost over there. Do you see, as of now, some inquiries or pipeline discussion coming on that side? Uh, because it's part of the professional services as well. Yeah.
I think yes, there is interest. I've actually had a couple of inquiries from both established UK GCC players and startup UK businesses. So I think that businesses are preparing for the point where the FTA comes into force. Um, that said, that interest among those players in the GCC space, that's among a whole wave of new inquiries around new work and new opportunities between the UK and India, I've definitely seen an uptick in my inbox in inquiries from Indian businesses looking to do business in the UK, in the UK, and vice versa. I've been hearing from Department of Business and Trade colleagues in the UK noticing this uptick of British businesses looking at the Indian market. One of the things I see in my work, so I love to accompany UK business delegations heading to India. And the Department for Business and Trade are really good at setting up these delegations. And I joined one of them recently on green hydrogen. And there are a number of British companies involved in that delegation. So all of them start from a position of ignorance. It's quite interesting, they've probably got a lot of work to do in the UK, but know that India is a growing economy and a growing opportunity, but just that they're ignorant about how to tap into that market. And it's interesting to see these companies on that journey. So from this realization that India is a future big market for them, and then joining a delegation and then seeing for themselves with their own eyes what's going on in India, the absolute pace of growth, the opportunities across a whole range of sectors. In this case, most recently it was hydrogen, but I've joined people on urban development delegations, on chemicals delegations, on plastics delegations. It's amazing what you learn in my job. I've learned about all sorts of industries, but it was interesting. It's interesting to me to see this journey that British company representatives go through. From this realization that India is an opportunity to then seeing it for themselves. And I think this is what more and more companies will be doing. They'll be overcoming their inhibitions. And I think that's the important thing. And businesses often need to do it for themselves. They need to kind of dip their toe. So Indian businesses looking for opportunities to invest or trade in the UK probably need to jump on a plane, go and see it. And Indian entrepreneurs that I speak to, that's been their light bulb moment when they actually go to the UK, hire a car, and go and see some of these industries and these business leaders, and set up a little tour to the UK. And I don't think there's any substitute for that. And I think the free trade agreement is sparking people to think about this and kind of go and explore our markets, both the UK and in India.
Yes, no, it is, and in fact, recently we came across. Of course, I'm based in UAE, keep traveling to India, where we have a Indian corporate which have a presence in UAE, looking to acquire a business in UK, where the UK businessman who is a British, of course, he's in sort of his retirement stage of his life, and he don't have anybody from his family to take over the business. So what we are also saying, where sometimes the aging population, where there's new generation not coming in the same business, especially is happening in UK and Europe. Those
Yeah,
businesses are a great opportunity for
yeah,
Indian businessmen to go and make an investment and create a partnership in such
yeah,
a, yeah. Because that's also we seeing more and more in London, in Scotland, and other
yeah.
areas. Yeah.
I think that's a very important point, Pankaj. So one Indian business leader I met recently said the best thing to do if you're looking for an investment in the UK is to go to the golf club, because a lot of these guys will be looking to their retirement and maybe looking to sell a business. So maybe a trip to the golf club if Indian business leaders are keen golfers to do that might be a fruitful way of looking for opportunities.
I think the next one should be a Indian golfers trip to
Yeah,
and yeah, as they say, the business happens over a coffee or a drink, and yes, there's a lot of sincere networking happens at these locations. That's an interesting perspective. I think one should also think in that direction. Yeah,
yeah,
fantastic. So we have heard of these lot of these agreements in past, right? But what do you see the classic, I will say, trade agreement which our both the countries or any other country would have had it in past versus this FTA agreement? How do we? There was a lot of celebration noise was being made around this, and so while we know that the key benefits, but where how do you differentiate? I will say with your experience so far, any other FTA signed by India with any other country, or versus in within past between India and UK, why this FTA agreement is quite different and important compared to other agreements? Yeah.
Well, I mean, first of all, it's just the sheer scale of this agreement. It's much bigger than any other that the UK has signed with anywhere, and its scope is really truly ambitious. So it eclipses other free trade agreements that have gone before it. Um, and also from India's perspective, it's the most extensive agreement that India has ever agreed with any country. And since leaving the EU, it's the biggest for the UK. I think India hasn't signed an agreement like this with any other G7 nation either. So I think that's significant. I think I mentioned as well about the scope. I think it includes manufactured goods and tangible exports and imports, but it actually goes beyond that. And what it does is it includes those services and professional services that I mentioned. I think the other thing to bear in mind is that it doesn't just stand alone. So when Prime Minister Modi visited the UK this year, and then Prime Minister Starmer visited Mumbai a couple of months ago, a key part of that was to agree the UK-India Vision 2035, and that kind of set out the various pillars of our bilateral relationship, and it very much complements the free trade agreement, including on public sector procurement, for example. So Indian companies can bid for UK public sector contracts, and vice versa. British companies can bid for Indian public sector contracts, which we know can be huge, especially for around infrastructure and other public sector interests. It excludes defence, but I think under Vision 2035 there's a specific piece on defence and greater defence cooperation and industrial cooperation. So I think for me, what makes this different is the absolutely comprehensive nature of it across sectors, both manufacturing and services and tech, but also that political backing. So it comes with rock solid political commitment, as I say, through Vision 2035, which was signed by both prime ministers, and I think which takes account of a whole range of sectors that others didn't. So
Right.
yeah, I think it's very exciting and quite amazing actually that the UK and India have managed to do it. I think what a testament to the understanding between India and the UK.
Sure. Steve, just one this question has just come into my thought and just triggered. It's a very simple one is sometime they call it first impression when a Indian entrepreneur, with keeping this in a context from opposite perspective, he land in UK and the experience from airport to uh, traffic to checking into his hotel and then meeting the respective diplomats or businessmen and so on and so forth, and vice versa. Somebody arrives in India and this thing. I think sometimes I feel, and being there in UAE for last 21 years, at times when, and we have taken a similar delegation between India and UAE, right? That when you're going from a not on a holiday trip, but when you're going on a business trip to a new country with this delegation, there's a lot of these soft pointers
Yeah,
from airport arrival to the hotel to traffic and small thing make a lot of difference. And of
Yeah,
course, the real business discussions. Do you think some special sort of a core team get created over here because you need to give that? I know it's different. Like if you remember that when we had uh, this very specific event which happened in India. You had a separate check-in counter for
yeah,
guests coming into, to India, to Ahmedabad, and so on and so
yeah.
forth. But I think that's also need to, how do you differentiate a person who coming with that purpose, but he get to treat it as a normal.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
It's
that's
a trick.
also, yeah,
It's a tricky question, Pankaj, that one. I'm the only diplomat. I'm the only foreign diplomat in Gujarat. So I'm quite lucky in as much as they let me go through the. There's a channel for officials at the airport. So I'm quite lucky. I don't. Sometimes I don't have to wait. Well, sometimes they make me wait quite a long time, but it's not too bad. Um, I think that yeah, there is something in that. I think first impressions make a huge difference. I think that when people visit the UK, they might notice that not everything the streets aren't paved with gold. A lot of people who haven't visited, um, um, have in their mind's eye quite an antique view of the UK. Um, and vice versa. I think people who haven't visited India don't always understand quite how far India has come in terms of development, very, very rapid development in terms of infrastructure and transport. Very soon India will have a bullet train which will eclipse anything that we have in the UK on the rails. So I think first impressions matter because preconceptions and stereotypes can still be in people's minds. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier about ignorance. And ignorance isn't, I'm not using that as a pejorative term because we all have, there are gaps in everybody's knowledge. But I think what we need to do is to, and that's kind of a job for diplomats, is to build understanding, isn't it? And to help people understand contexts. And so when I have visitors, I always talk to them about where India is going, what India's done, where it's come from in the last 10, 20 years, and kind of try and build that context and build that understanding. And I kind of hope my Indian counterparts in the UK are doing the same about the UK. But I don't know about kind of whizzing business people through the airport. I think in an ideal world, maybe that would be a good thing. But basically, I think that comes down to the officials on the desks at the airport. I think it'd be a tricky one to change, but I can see the sense in it, Pankaj.
yeah. But I'll tell you something very interesting, which even a lot of Indians we are in UAE are not aware of, which I'm sure this is a new fast track service which has been introduced in
Mm,
India. It's fantastic. When in my last trip when I was there,
mm,
I've experienced very good experience in both at the Mumbai and the Delhi airport. So which is very simple, and this is there for foreigners as well. So you
yeah.
go online, submit your profile, and within 15 days, if you travel next time, you give your identity first time on the airport, and then next time you don't have any queue. There's a separate
Ah,
fast track. Yeah, there's a lot of roller banners on all the airports now.
mm,
Mumbai, Delhi, Hyderabad, Bangalore were there. But this is
yeah,
also something very simple but smart which has been introduced, where you need not to have a national ID of the country, but you can still come through fast track. And I'm sure, like this is at the airport, but I'm sure uh, for a tax registration, for a company setup, or any
yeah,
of the where these people have to go through, I'm sure this fast track service for foreign investors or foreign guests come very handy and useful. And I'm showing it's going in the right direction. This
yeah.
initiative is quite innovative and quite useful for foreign guests or NRIs for that matter. Yeah.
sounds like a great idea. Actually, in the UK, they're introducing reforms that should make travel easier through a kind of a pre-registration system, a little bit like the US system. But actually, although it involves a little bit of an internet login, should make things a bit easier at the airport when it's introduced. But yeah, I think all of these things sound like very good ideas that should make things easier. And no doubt we'll get there. I think one of the things, I think there's a wider point in this, Pankaj, which is about how the free trade agreement is monitored and implemented in the coming years. And this is the kind of thing where businesses feeding back to governments and officials can potentially help change things in the future. So I think there need to be feedback mechanisms and feedback loops so that business can reflect its thoughts and its ideas and its concerns as this free trade agreement is implemented.
Sure. And also what we were discussing earlier about these all association, your FICCI, your CII, your Indian UK Business Associations, the various associations. I'm sure these associations together will create a standing committees, right, where you can have representation from the Indian businessman and UK businessman, because finally it's not the government or diplomat. I think it's businessmen have to make a decision and it should make sense to them from a ROI or return on equity perspective. And I'm sure these forum and a joint collaboration by businessmen from both the sides, so that the voice can through FICCI or CI or where this association can go to government and diplomats to see how we come up with those hurdles and execute and take benefit of FTA agreement. Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head there, Pankaj. I think those business associations and chambers of commerce like FICCI, CII, IBC, and others will play a crucial role. I mean, before I became a diplomat, I worked in the private sector, and I could see that a lot of activity takes place despite government. I think the best thing governments can do is get out of the way. And in fact, what this free trade agreement does is gets the government out of the way of business, so business can do what it does best, which is work with each other and do deals that make money, and everyone's happy. I think that's my personal view, that governments are best when they get out of the way. And this is where the business associations come in, because they enable businesses to do it for themselves. And this is where businesses are able to compare notes, raise concerns, suggest things that can make things better, or make the free trade agreement operate more smoothly. So I have huge faith in the business organizations. Those in India that I've had dealings with are incredibly professional, incredibly switched on. And I think they'll be very good at working out where to go and who to speak to. Another business association I've had a lot to do with is GESIA, the Electronics Trade Association here in Gujarat. Again, very switched on, and that they'll know where this free trade agreement is working and where it isn't. And as you say, be able to identify, how it can be leveraged to provide that return on investment. But I think, that there are a couple of there are a number of docking in points as well. So I think the free trade agreement has a whole framework of governance around it, so that it can be monitored. So there'll be a joint economic and trade committee between India and the UK. There'll be some joint oversight committees. There'll be an innovation working group. There'll be parliamentary oversight as well. So we've got the all-party parliamentary group for India in Parliament in the UK. And then there'll be an annual review, ministerial review, where UK and Indian ministers will look at the operation of this. And I think, going back to what we were saying about the trade associations and the chambers of commerce, knowing that there's this kind of framework of review around it, there's plenty of opportunity for them to feed in. And I think we need to make sure the mechanisms are right for them to feed in, so that these official meetings get the proper reflection of how the free trade agreement is working. But when I looked into the governance arrangements, it strikes me that it's very much about making it as effective as possible. And while that sounds cumbersome, as I say, in essence, this free trade agreement is all about getting the UK government and the Indian government out of the way, so businesses can come together and grow our economies.
True. Uh, now as the trade grows and trade flows grows, I think, what do you feel like from a perspective of banking, digital trade finance platform? Because I think to fund these trade flows, cross-border transaction, the digitization and the digital platform will play an important role. Be it a UK exporter looking for a trade finance or an Indian importer looking for a trade finance. So, what do you think? Where you see the digitization of trade finance could play a role to facilitating cross-border trade flow, especially from a import and export perspective?
So, I mean, I mentioned earlier, Pankaj, that every day for me in my job is an education. And a few months ago, when I saw you up at Gift City, you educated me about trade finance, and it was wonderful, because all of a sudden you explained it in such a way that it helped me understand the importance of digital platforms and trade finance to cross-border trade. It kind of goes back to what I was saying a little bit earlier about misunderstanding or lack of knowledge, or ignorance of countries a long way away. What I've seen in my career is that there are plenty of opportunities that go untapped, partly because businesses were just a bit nervous about dipping their toe into a new market. They weren't sure what the risks were, and they didn't know how systems worked in that new market that they wanted to sell into or operate in. So I see digital trade platforms as a way of businesses overcoming their apprehension about operating, either Indian companies operating in the UK or vice versa. It helps give a level of confidence and a level of certainty as well, which I think helps businesses overcome that initial reticence. I think the other advantage is, I mean, we're seeing more and more banks kind of operating in each other's territories. We've got up at Gift City HSBC, Standard Chartered, Barclays, and we may have others in future. And then we've got Indian banks, ICICI, Bank of Baroda, etc., operating in the UK, and in particular in markets where there are Indian diaspora living. But I think where there's another advantage to digital platforms and trade finance is that a UK bank or a UK company doesn't necessarily have to have that physical presence. So you could be operating in Birmingham in England. You don't have to jump on a plane. You don't have to have an office. It increases the efficiency of the business model, I think, because you don't need to have that physical presence, and that means you can then access those trade flows. And I think in an environment, as we were talking about earlier on, where trade flows are really booming and that the volumes are really growing fast, I think accessing those trade flows and those enabling those transactions while being based in Baroda or being based in Birmingham just improves efficiency. It dispels myths. It helps people get over their reticence, and it provides certainty. So I think 360 TF is in an exciting place ahead of the ratification of the free trade agreement, because I think it should see more people interested in both directions.
Yeah, no, you're right. Thanks, Steve, for that. Yes, our idea when we created this 5 years back was to, of course, bridge this gap between importer, exporter, and banks across geographies, where you need not to, as a UK bank, physically there in India, and as you mentioned about Baroda and Buckingham. So, yes, well said on that. I see some Q&A questions coming in the chat box, but before that, the last one, where, what sort of messages you want to you have covered, but apart from that, anything, a message for our audience, otherwise to where you see that they should start focusing, or this thing getting ratified. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think when we look ahead to 2030, we're looking at doubling that trade relationship. I think we're looking at £100 billion bilateral trade between India and the UK. I'm hoping to buy a Royal Enfield bike, so I'll be contributing to that figure hopefully in the near future.
Yeah.
But it'll be bigger, and it will be more. There'll be more opportunity. I think it will be different as well. So we mentioned the capability centres, but I think India will provide much more than that. It will be a knowledge partner. It will be providing top-end technology, top-end skills, and so I think it will be the relationship will evolve that way as well, so that both sides will be adding value to each other's economies. So I think in the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see even more exciting change. So I think what that means for us in India, for the UK in India, and the British High Commission and its Deputy High Commission, such as mine, is that we really want businesses to be in touch with us. We really want people to dip their toe, as I say, to explore the UK market, and for UK companies to explore, for my part, Gujarat. But I think we want businesses to be getting in touch with us. We've got a great Department for Business and Trade team here in Ahmedabad and across India, actually, in all of our DHCs. So it'd be great if interested businesses could be in touch. And then I think it's all about the art of the possible. I mean, for diplomats, everything we do is about the art of the possible. Give it a go, explore, see if there's something we can do, and then take it from there. But I think over the years, as our trade relationship grows and familiarity grows even further between the UK and India, that will become much easier. But my basic message is, where we are, and we'd love to hear from you if you're interested in doing business in the UK.
Sure. No, thank you. I know your team is, and along with your side, Miss Momita and Miss Jinsi, both are available, and we've been regular touch. So definitely, if we come across anyone, we will direct them to your Ahmedabad office. We have a couple of questions. Maybe Akshata, quickly you can share those questions so that Mr. Steve can participate and direct our audience. Yeah.
Make me
Thanks.
nervous.
No.
Yeah. Thank you to the panel for sharing their expertise. We'll read out the questions and then either of you can answer. Okay. What early steps should SMEs take today to prepare themselves for SETA-driven opportunities once the agreement becomes fully operational?
That's a good question. Pankaj may have a better answer than me, but my suggestion, and this is based on a couple of years here now, or more than a couple of years, is start to do your research, work out where you want to be, and maybe even visit. If you're thinking of business in the UK, visit the UK, and as I say, vice versa for British companies, come and visit India. Because I think there's no substitute for that as preparation for doing business. That said, with the digital trade platform, you don't need to travel anymore. But Pankaj, what do you think?
Yeah, no, thanks, Steve. I think I will add into this is one is for SME to take benefit of this is that one of the critical part is of course the quality, because when you're doing international trade, the quality is very, very important. So they should work for a various certification which are required, which will fit into a UK government specification that it should be XYZ certification. So that's one. And second is the quality in balance sheet. So basically, if they have good financial system, audit report, that will help them to get finance for the international trade finance. So I think this is very, very important for any SME to get access to. He should have quality product manufactured so that he get a good order, and then of course he get finance with the good books of accounts. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for
And the
answering that.
last one, sorry, they must travel for their next holidays to UK so that they have not, so they should get familiarized with the culture and start connecting with the people before they start exporting. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Definitely go to the pub and have a drink.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you for answering that. Taking up the next question. What opportunities will come up for shipbuilding and ship management in the trade agreement? How can we get finance for ship owning or shipbuilding from UK to build and operate ships?
That's quite a specific question. I have to admit I'm not an expert on the shipbuilding sector, but what I can say is that the government does have a new shipbuilding and maritime strategy. Um, and there's a problem at the moment in that there's not enough capacity in UK shipyards. So I think what we're seeing is increased defence expenditure, more ships being built, and a lack of capacity as a result there. But what we are seeing is more shipbuilding going on across the UK, in particular in Scotland and Northern Ireland, but also in the southwest and along the south coast of England, and also submarines up in the northwest of England. So there's an awful lot of activity. I don't know about finance for shipbuilding or maritime work. I know that there's a strategy in India as well. I think the best advice I could give is to be in touch, and I'll put you in touch with the relevant Department for Business and Trade team here in India, who could probably provide more detailed advice.
Yeah, no, thanks, Steve. And I would like to add this to Amit's question is that one is what Steve you mentioned, but secondly, I think the Exim Bank there, I met them during the Gift City Roadshow, and that's where we met first time, right?
Yeah.
They are also funding these transactions, and secondly, Gift City itself have created a lot of SPV structure to finance ship
Mm.
industry and shipbuilding. So, and definitely our team and otherwise can guide along with the embassy, but both from a UK government, UK finance companies, as well as the gift city structure are the quite, I will say, approachable structures for a shipbuilding perspective. Yeah.
Mm, mm, mm.
Okay. Taking up the next question. If you could identify one area where India and the UK must collaborate more boldly, not incrementally, to unlock 2030 goals, what would it be?
Shall I go first, Pankaj?
So, yeah, please, Steve.
No,
Yeah.
no, you go first. You'll have a better answer than me.
No. No, it's not that line. No, please, you. I think what I understand is I was just that when we say UK must cover more boldly, not incrementally to unlock 2030 goals, basically it's like how do you double or go aggressive on what you're doing and create this thing. So I think uh, I mean I would like to add on this is yes, you have to pick up the specific. I think the industry which already have a traction and you multiply that. It is a simple thing, as they say in business, what works you multiply. Yeah. So, but that's one perspective. But I want to hear from you, Steve. Your thought process. Yeah.
I think that um, I think a common misconception is that there's a silver bullet, and one thing that will will magically improve or boost economies to reach a particular goal. But I think my experience as a diplomat over years and my experience in the private sector before I joined the diplomatic service was that actually it's the cumulative effect of lots and lots of businesses doing more business rather than one big thing. And so it's lots of businessmen doing fabulous things enabled by less government, i.e. the FTA. So I think that's strongly my view, that it comes down to lots of people doing lots of things, not one particular thing. But if there's one thing that I'd love to see, it's with the energy transition. So India has a huge demand for electricity building, and it also is committed to clean growth and the energy transition to clean methods of energy production. One of the strengths of the UK is small modular reactors, and Rolls-Royce is the company in the UK that leads on this. I'd love to see India grasp that opportunity with the UK, because I truly believe it's the very best technology, very proven technology. And I think a wonderful partnership could be built to help India meet its technology and its power generation goals. And I think that would be a wonderful symbol of the UK-India partnership over the coming years.
Oh, this is very good input, Steve. I think, and I remember funding a transaction where Rolls-Royce was supplying, power machineries to our client in Bangladesh only a few years back. But yeah, it's certainly very, very useful. I see some question, Akshita, from Vikram Javeri.
Yes. So, one of our attendee, Vikram, has asked that how can we have and avail panels for the import or export in the renewable energy space, also for like power projects, equipment, energy projects?
Sorry, I didn't catch the beginning of the question.
So it's Steve. Basically, the question is again, this is to do with finance. That what sort of financing is available for import export, especially in renewable energy space, power projects, equipment, import and export from a financing perspective. Yeah, I mean, unless if you want to see anything specific, you aware or there's something in place for renewable energy and power projects.
I'm not aware, but I can go away and find out. I'd be happy to find out. I know that a lot of these projects are publicly funded, and as I said earlier, I think that the free trade agreement will provide for Indian companies to bid for public tenders for these power projects and these renewable energy projects. But I'd be happy to find out more, or put you in touch with the relevant Department for Business and Trade colleagues to kind of explore that further.
No, I think Vikram and other audience in Vikram Javeri, we see your question here. You can certainly connect with our team. We know a few Exim and other institutions who will be keen in this to fund these transactions. But what else, Steve? I'm taking these pointers from these questions that what we also require is, uh, you know, also an independent standing committee,
Yeah,
either with FICCI or CI, where a firm like us could be part of it, especially from a financing this whole thing, because what we
yes,
see today and otherwise also that everything is good, you can invest, participate, but who going to finance them, right?
yeah,
That's become an important point for every investment, and I think that could be an important thing
yeah.
for all of us to work together. Yeah.
One of the things that we're doing is setting up a joint committee between India and the UK on offshore wind and offshore wind power generation. Um, the committee is in its very early stages, but it will consider a number of the policy aspects to building new projects in India and the UK. And it's actually one of the mechanisms, I think, where we could explore some of those financing questions and develop that for the future.
Perfect. Yeah, yeah. No, this
Okay.
is good. I think we covered Akshita. Yeah,
Yes. Thank you, Pankaj and Steve, for answering the questions. With that, we come to the end of the Q&A session. And now we extend our heartfelt thanks to our esteemed panel for their invaluable insights and contributions. As we close Business Unplugged Season 2.0 for 2025, we express our big thank you to every speaker who shared their insights and inspired us throughout the journey. This finale is a celebration of you and the invaluable contributions you brought to our sessions.
yeah. No, thank
Fabulous.
you, Steve, once again, and we'll definitely, connect these people who have these queries to your office,
Yeah.
and wishing you and your team a Merry Christmas in advance. But I'm sure we'll talk and continue these discussions and deliberations. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was a real pleasure, and thank you so much for inviting me. I'm looking forward to seeing you, either the team in Jaipur or Pankaj seeing you maybe sometime in Ahmedabad.
Sure.
Yes.
Perfect.
Happy
Thank you, Steve
Christmas.
and Pankaj, and to all our participants, thank you for your time and engagement. We hope today's session offered meaningful takeaways and fresh perspectives in the world of trade finance. See you all next year with a brand new season. Till then, wishing you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Thank you, everyone.